Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kurt, and welcome back to Far Lands or Bust. Woof! This is episode 358. Heard some skeletons. Oh, and creepers. Well, I didn't hear the creepers, but I heard the skeletons. Perhaps I stayed up a bit too late last night. Whoa, look at all the creepers. Partying hard here in the Far Lands or Bust world, but let's, Oh, we built into the side of a mountain here, so let's continue west, which is not as expected away from the hidey hole, but to the side of the hidey hole. Let's clean out our inventory a little bit and continue on. Like I said, episode 358, Wednesday, May 28th, 2014. Raised a little bit more money for Child's Play charity, $2,173 total. This season, Season 5 of Far Lands or Bust. Do appreciate the continued support. FarLandsOrBust.com, etc., etc. You know the drill. Wow, look at all this skeleton residue. This was a skeleton biome. I do find that, especially in this version of the game, it appears as though, like, the game decides, oh, right now I'm going to spawn a skeleton, therefore everything else in the immediate vicinity is also going to spawn as a skeleton. It seems to do groupings, and I think that's actually part of the game. Like cows, they will spawn in a group of 1 to 6 in this single chunk or whatever, and it will be deemed as a cow biome. Cow chunk. Ew, sounds like something completely different. A chunk of cows. Ooh. Woof. Are we all right? Yeah, we're all right on food for Wolfie. And yeah, that was something, obviously, was it the 1.8 update? Or maybe later updates added the whole animal breeding and limited animal resources, like when animals spawned, that's all they would spawn, and they wouldn't continue to spawn, whereas in this version of the game and previous ones, you would, they would basically continually spawn and randomly spawn and despawn at a rate just dependent on if it was bright. Like you could, I just remember in one of my test worlds having lit up the lawn area, the yard, if you will, setting out milkshakes and bringing all the boys to the yard. No, setting out torches, and just by having torches, animals continued to spawn into the night. Like, timid? Is that the word? No, passive mobs. Passive mobs would just start continually spawning simply because there was light there. And that was just the way it worked. I think they kind of, I don't know, I should stop talking about the current versions of the game, because if you're watching the Mindcrack UHC Season 16, you'll know that I do not know that much. I do not know that much about things that have changed in the world, thinking that you need iron to collect lapis. You apparently don't, but you'll just have to watch. See you later, Wolfie. Have fun. Bye. You'll just have to watch to see what sort of derpiness comes of myself and Doc and Pyro. It's a good team indeed. But yeah, let's continue walking here and talking about Far Lands or Bust, as it were. But yeah, I'm playing in beta 1.7.3, which is where a lot of the confusion comes from, because oh, you don't have a hunger bar, why aren't you sprinting, or blah 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 blah. Just use creative mode. Doesn't exist. These things do not exist in Minecraft beta 1.7.3. But what does exist is the Farlands at over 12,500,000 blocks from spawn, and that is the goal. That is the goal set out. This dog is on a mission. he had a place to be. It's pretty funny. Indeed. See you later. Woof woof woof. Pleasantries have been exchanged. Let's jump in a boat and talk about some additional. We had a lot of. No. Cavalry. What was that all about? Oh, you just, I think you jumped off that, yeah, you jumped off that tree. Talk about space news. Some more space news. Kind of a quick little thing, but last night on Twitter, there was a Twitter of activity on Twitter about a detected possible gamma ray burst in Andromeda, M31, the nearby galaxy, our nearby kind of sister twin galaxy to the Milky Way galaxy, there's a telescope in space called Swift, and basically it is constantly scanning the cosmos and trying to detect these high energy events, X-ray bursts associated with gamma ray bursts, and then at a moment's notice, within minutes, really, 90 seconds or so, it swings around and aims its main, it has detectors, and then when it detects something, it swings around with its gyroscopes and points its main telescope at that source of X-rays and tries to determine its source and everything about it, and it alerts astronomers on the ground, and then astronomers, along with this Twitter of activity, started pointing all of their big old telescopes at this X-ray source. But I went to bed and woke up this morning to find out it was a false alarm. That would have been big news because we generally detect gamma ray bursts at the edge of the universe, and a lot of gamma ray bursts are what tell us about the size and the distance of the universe and the rate at which it's accelerating and the expansion and whatnot. So to have one as close as M31 Andromeda, some 2 million, we're talking millions as opposed to billions, 2 million light years away would be quite the event. Never has one been that close. Never have we detected one within the Milky Way galaxy, and if there was one within the Milky Way galaxy, actually that could potentially be bad news. Bad news for old Earth here. The energy is so high that if it were to be within proximity, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to feed Wolfie. Within proximity and aimed in the wrong direction, it could do some serious damage to our atmosphere and give us a bad day. Pretty much destroy the planet. Well, life on the planet. The planet would survive, but life and our atmosphere perhaps would not. But these are very rare events, obviously, of course, that's why normally if we do see them, they're very rare, but at very long and far away distances. So it would have been big news had it been an M31, but like I said, false alarm. It just turned out to be a known source of X-rays, and that's pretty much all it was. And the people behind Swift never actually said this is a gamma ray burst. They basically just released the data. Oh, our telescope detected this, and everybody else kind of ran with it. Again, speaking of, let's dig down here. Speaking of kind of, careful, Wolfie, I just fed you and now you lost all that health I just gave you. Speaking of, similarly to the meteor shower, or say Comet Isone, how the media and people tend to pick things and run with it. This was kind of picked and ran with, but so far it seems to be like, okay, this was a farce, it's a farce, a false alarm, and it would have been great for science and our knowledge of the universe, but oh well indeed. It's like like a tornado alarm. It's better to have like, oh, this might be a GRB, we should point all our telescopes at it and have it be a false alarm than to have missed it completely. So that's woo. That's something that happened. Perhaps you missed, if you don't follow a lot of astronomers and whatnot on Twitter. Perhaps you missed that sort of thing. But interesting stuff indeed. Anyway. Also, speaking of space, probably actually guaranteed to be. Whoa. After. Ooh, speaking of space, spooky gamma ray bursts within the Milky Way. Speaking of space, Expedition 40 and 41. 40/41 of the Soyuz is going to launch around a little bit past 3 p.m. Eastern time today. It will have had launched, probably. They're pretty reliable with the launches of the Soyuz. It's very rare that any weather or technical issue will stop them. They can launch in the snow. And it contains an American NASA astronaut, a German European Space Agency astronaut, and a Russian astronaut heading up to the International Space Station for a long-term stay, so that's very cool. Hopefully, if you were following me on Twitter, which you should be doing, I'll be retweeting the live feed and the links to watch that launch. It's very cool. They always have a cockpit view, and it's very cool to watch. They don't have external camera views, which is kind of disappointing, but they have a cockpit view that they always switch to on the Roskosmos channel, kind of like NASA TV, except it's the Russian channel, and it's cool watching when they tend to broadcast when the shroud, the launch shroud, disconnects, and then suddenly it becomes bright in there. Usually, if it's if they're launching into the sunlight, and then when the MECO, main engine cutoff, how the astronauts just suddenly get like thrashed, just like bam, with suddenly going from whatever 3-4 Gs of acceleration to 0 like that, and they're like bam, they're actually like shot forward in their suits and held back by their straps on their seats. So that's cool stuff to watch. So hopefully that all went well. Let's go to sleep, and hopefully the rest of this episode of Far Lands of Bus goes well, but I'm staying up too late. Let's go to sleep. And a dangerously late night elevated hidey hole here, but I think we're safe. I don't think anything spawned. Let's continue on. We got some interesting floating islands. It wanted to be an archway, but it eroded away. Did I mention in the last episode or an episode before that, Watch Dogs? Did not buy it. Am not, at least right at the present moment or in the near future, going to be playing Watch Dogs on the channel. It doesn't look too good. Doc, if you want to watch somebody play it, Doc is playing it. I believe Corrales is also playing it. Two people who I subscribe to and follow are playing Watch Dogs, but it doesn't look too good. The main thing I've noticed in Doc's gameplay is the driving is surprisingly not very good looking. Even Doc, as somebody who isn't that much of a racing or driving game player, is having problems with the cameras. It has that problem. I mention a lot of times in racing games how the third-person view is sometimes weirdly disconnected from the camera, and when you turn the car, the camera won't turn with you, and you see the side of the car too much, and it's really, you can tell how Doc is having some problems with that, and that's really disappointing coming from a game that we can all admit was started out to be Driver Chicago, but they switched it up. I would have much rather and been much more excited about a Driver Chicago, but we can't have everything. And of course, they're also having problems with the Uplay. This is a Ubisoft game, so it's tied into Uplay, which I always had problems with Driver. I could never get the multiplayer on Driver to work. It would just crash the game. And they're having problems with Uplay. Some people can't even play the game because the servers are unable to handle the strain and unable to double check the crazy DRM that allows you to just play the single player version of the game. And one of this year's big gaming disappointments. Unfortunately, it seems as though that is the case, at least in early retrospect here. And it was also a game where there was an embargo on reviews. They didn't allow reviews to be released until the day of release, which is always kind of a red flag, kind of like if there's a movie out there and they don't allow movie reviews or screenings until the day the movie is released, you can pretty much guarantee that that movie is going to be crap. So it seems like it might, the reviews I have read of Watch Dogs say that the open world aspects, simply exploring Chicago and just fooling around, is like where you can have the most fun. The actual story, the gameplay, the cover shooting mechanics, and the whole hacking press triangle to hack that street lamp or whatever is really subpar. So for that, I would probably, if I am going to play it at all, I'm going to wait for some pretty big, deep discounts, because I would just want to play it for the open world aspect, or perhaps, I don't know, maybe there's a little bit of a multiplayer aspect. I would probably just, unless it's necessary to unlock certain parts of the city or certain abilities, I would just maybe ignore the single player, the campaign version of it. But anyway. that's how that went. Enough of that. Enough of that shenanigans. I do have some questions here. Some questions from donors to Child's Play charity. When you donate, there's a little spot you can enter a comment. You can leave a question that I will attempt to get to in a future episode of Farlands or Busts. It's always helpful to have topics to talk about because it's going to be a long journey. So I do appreciate those questions. And if you want your name associated with your question, leave it in the comment, because by default, unless you actually go into your options and settings and actually create an account with the Child's Play charity donation system, I'm not going to see who asked the questions or who donated. Not that I'm trying to invade your privacy or anything like that, but that's a good thing that it's actually anonymous. Oh, wow. Good thing Wolfie bounced me in this direction. Look at this waterfall. Amazing waterfall spread here. See, in this situation, I feel like I always say one of the features I like or would like would be some sort of erosive properties given to water. At least here, I could see it would be nice if, like, the trees got washed out. You know, if tree is affected by water, then wash away the tree, you know, or something like that. That would be interesting. But that's wow, that spread out. Oh, it's okay. I see. It's 2 waterfalls right there. Neat. Neat. Takes a picture with a disposable camera. Ha! Futurama reference. Woof. I got a question from Mornite. Mornite or Mornite. Would you ever consider starting a flob audio podcast? Now, I'm not sure if you ask or mean just taking the audio from an actual episode or each episode of Farlands or Bust and providing it as an MP3 podcast, downloadable, basically as an RSS feed. And there was a big discussion about the Mindcrack podcast has recently, I believe thanks to the works of OMG Chad and a few others in the Mindcrack community, is now available as a podcast. Basically, you know, people say, oh, you should just put it up on our iTunes. It's not that simple. You can't, you know, iTunes, you don't upload your MP3s of your podcast to iTunes and it takes care of the rest. You actually have to host the MP3 files somewhere, and you have to create an XML RSS feed of those files, and then you have to basically, the only thing you provide to iTunes is the RSS feed, the XML file, and hosting those files takes up space and bandwidth, because then when somebody downloads your RSS or what your podcast from iTunes, it's actually downloading it from your server. It takes time and space and money. It costs money to host these files normally. I've done research on this. I am well versed, although not greatly versed, but well-ish versed in RSS. You know, people say, oh, just put it up on SoundCloud. Well, it actually, SoundCloud requires you to have the pay account in order to have over a certain amount of audio files and actually to enable the ability to allow your audio files to be downloaded. So SoundCloud isn't the answer, although I believe isn't Twitter. I think Twitter is looking to buy SoundCloud as another one of these tech acquisition rumors. Speaking of acquisitions, I need some wood, some resources here. So let's gather the wood. We would gather wood, would we? We would. We will, and we did, and we did. So yeah, I've considered that. I've played around with the idea. The YouTube, you know, I do believe, as far as Farlands or Bust is concerned, that the video is important. Even though I know a lot of people will simply rip the MP3 off of YouTube themselves, and I'm fine with that. Go ahead. And they'll listen to it on their own, or perhaps they'll just have it playing in the background as they're playing a game or doing homework or whatever. But I do feel like the visuals are very important to Farlands or Bust, so I've never been comfortable saying that this is a podcast definitively. It is a YouTube series, so the video is an important aspect of Farlands or Bust. You know, it's a little bit disjointed for me to be killing these pigs and saying, careful, Wolfie, if the people watching can't can't actually see the action going on, or talking about that amazing waterfall we just saw. So it's an important aspect of the series here, despite the fact that I do talk about things completely unrelated to what's going on in the game. So yeah, and I don't believe it would stand up very well as a standalone podcast. I feel like I haven't come across many solo podcasts. You know, it seems like podcasts tend to do well when there's a conversation happening, when either there's guests or there's multiple hosts. A podcast I've recently really gotten into, but I do watch and subscribe to on YouTube, is Tested. It's with Adam Savage and two other people I can't quite remember, but Adam Savage of Mythbusters fame. But Tested is the name of the channel, and I think it's called Yet to Be Named is the name of the podcast. And they just talk about just completely random topics. They talked about quadcopters, the little remote control quadcopters, and video production, and how it relates to either Mythbusters or simple video production. They talk about DIY stuff. A recent episode of Yet to Be Named, or whatever it's called, they talked about fitness and health and like dieting and kind of not dieting and simply making lifestyle choices. And Adam was talking about how, he does kind of like how I talked about a while ago, how, he doesn't work out, he doesn't go to a gym or exercise. He just, the thing he does is he started doing 100 push-ups a day. He just does morning, afternoon, and night, does a set of 33 push-ups. And he's stopped drinking, and he's found that allowed him to lose a lot of weight and become more fit and kind of a little bit more of a healthy lifestyle. But, otherwise it's simple talking about, like I've talked about in the past too, simple math, calories in versus out and burned and stored and whatnot. So yeah, that's a podcast I enjoy, and that's that conversation. Let me go to sleep, and we'll continue talking about this in the morning. Sorry, I just had the thought. I ruined that. I just had the thought that in an audio-alone podcast, this whole snoring situation would be a very odd thing. It would be a good place for like a commercial break. A lot of people will be like, oh, go to audible.com. Everybody has some sort of Audible advertisement going on, or some sort of commercial break. The snoring would be great for a commercial break, and just be thankful that I haven't decided quite yet to include mid-roll YouTube ads every time I sleep. That would be an interesting concept. It would work. Right now I do pre-roll and post-roll ads, but if I removed those and instead had ads at the sleep marks, that would probably deter some people from watching Far Lands of Bust. But anyway, talking about podcasts, I also feel like now talking about the Mindcrack podcast is a fun podcast. I was on there twice or 3 times so far. I do feel like that works better as a podcast. It's a little bit sometimes, I think, lacking if I can start to critique a podcast I am a part of in the community. I do feel sometimes it lacks in certain topic. I do feel like podcasts, blogs, anything tends to work well when they do have a specific goal or point or topic. So sometimes that one meanders a bit, but again, the Mindcrack podcast is a little bit more about the personalities than it is about the content of the podcast. But I also noticed the difference. Perhaps they're just a little bit more seasoned, Italian seasoning, seasoned as far as broadcast or being presenters are concerned. But talking about Tested and the to-be-named podcast, they're all in a room, all around a table there, recording at the same time. I feel like that works a lot better for the pacing of a podcast, as opposed to when we're talking about the Mindcrack podcast or a podcast that occurs over Skype, just voice. There's no visual cues, and you'll notice sometimes that either somebody will talk over somebody else, and there will be confusion in that regard, or there will be moments of silence when somebody is expected to talk and they aren't, and I think it's due to the lack of visual cues. When you're together in a room, or even over Skype, if we were to include video, or you know, have some sort of even a convention, a forum, is that the word for it? No, a panel at a convention. There are visual cues, you know, a person leans into their microphone, the person talking at that time will know, okay, this person has something to add, I will pause and allow them to add, or, you know, stuff like that. It's missing in an audio-only environment when we're talking over Skype calls. So, you know, there's always, I've considered it, and perhaps what I'm getting to here is not necessarily to make Far Lands or Bust a podcast, but it would be interesting to be part of or to make a standalone, an actual podcast. And I would just have to decide on some sort of topic. It would be good to have some sort of like co-host and or guests. Like I said, it works best. What am I doing here? Let's just go over this way. I was gonna make a boat, but we'll make a little bit more northward progress. We're gonna be in the opposite direction the next time we press F3. The reason, sorry, segue, or not segue, tangent. The reason I'm trying to list to the right, north, is because the last time I pressed F3, I was, what was it, 64,000 blocks off from 0. I'm walking west, which is the X coordinate, but I was off in the Z coordinate by 64,000. So I'm trying to go right consciously a little bit to try to zero that out, and now I'm concerned that I'm going to be going in the opposite direction past 0. We'll never know until we press F3 again. But anyway, back to my normal tangent. Yeah, maybe, I don't know, I've always considered that. I did at one point start and have since deleted a blog. I'm always trying to adapt to kind of, I've always wanted to be part of the internet or do work on the internet. And when blogging became a thing, I started my own blog or tried to be an active blogger. That obviously didn't work out. That's kind of a hard thing to get into unless you have some sort of previous notoriety or some drive of original traffic that doesn't normally come from just starting a blog. You know, I've always liked podcasts. I've always considered, maybe I could start a podcast. Of course, I enjoyed watching YouTube Let's Plays, and I started a YouTube Let's Play channel, and I'd say that worked out okay so far. So yeah, I don't know, maybe I should start to consider, perhaps, there's a lot of stuff I need to do this year, so perhaps as maybe a 2015 goal, start some sort of separate podcast. Of course, I would worry about it taking content or ideas or topics from Far Lands or Bust or my other Let's Plays, so who knows. So yeah, in that regard, you know, I don't know, and I'll go back and forth and change my mind many times about this as the days progress, but I don't know that Far Lands or Bust, thanks, in and of itself would serve well as an audio-only podcast. And like I said, I don't. If you want to download, there are tools, browser plugins to download the audio MP3 of a YouTube video. If you want to do that, that's fine. I'm not one to restrict the use of the bits and bytes that I put up on the internet. That is not the type of internet I want to live in. I want to live in one where we can freely exchange and share and remix and the ideas and data and information and art on the internet, obviously with proper attribution. I'm not giving you permission to take the MP3 and upload it as your own podcast on iTunes or anything like that. That is not what you have permission to do, and I will strike you down with a fury if that were to happen. But yeah, if you want to use it for your own personal use, that's fine by me. Go ahead. It helps if you do watch the YouTube version, because that's where the the revenue comes from, and how I'm able to do this at a more frequent full-time pace. But yeah, wow, such a small little question from More Nights turned into a big discussion here, and that, my friends, is how we stretch out content here for Far Lands or Bust. Check out this cool little area over here. Oh, I thought it was going to be just like a solo spire, a Han Solo spire of land, but it's turned into a cliff face. From Piety, Have you ever liked musical theater? No. I mean, that's a pretty easy thing to answer. And I don't have anything against it, and if it's your thing, or you're involved in it, or you find it to be the most amazing form of art in the world, that's great. Enjoy it. I'm not here, I'm not here to tell you what I don't like. I'm here to tell you the things I do like, but I've just never gotten into it. I don't know if it's because I'm too much of I take things too literally and realistically. I'm like, now why are these sailors suddenly breaking out into song and dance, when there's a war going on, or something like that. I've been to a few, and I've seen a few movies that have musical elements, and it's just, I can't find myself getting immersed in that as a narrative. And also simply, some people listen to the music separately from the musical, and I can't get into that either. It kind of reminds me of, a Randy Newman, is that the guy's name, song? He did like the Toy Story songs and stuff like that, where it's just, I'm singing about what I'm actively doing at this time. And Family Guy did a pretty funny joke about that at one point, I believe. And it just never clicked with me. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't click with me, where I'm like, okay, that's okay for you to enjoy, but not of my own particular enjoyment. So, yeah, not fan of musical theater. Even plays are okay, I guess. They're a little bit better. I'm not sure if I've ever seen just a straight up play that doesn't involve musical numbers. Maybe that's something I'll have to add to my list. Is see an actual play, not a musical. It's hard. A lot of plays are musicals, it seems. They're the hot thing, the Broadway thing to do right now. Ooh. This rock is structurally unstable and should not be stood under as I'm doing now. So I don't know. Yeah, perhaps maybe a play is the way to go as opposed to a musical. Perhaps, yeah, I don't know. I do not know. Yeah, all right, it's cool. Yeah. Nah. I mean, I like comedy. I've been to a few sketch comedy things. I like Whose Line Is It Anyway? They did have a tour where a few of the actors. It wasn't Drew Carey or Colin Mockery. Oh, that's a spawner down there. Oh gosh, this is dangerous. Oh yeah, this is kind of dangerous. Okay, no. Okay, all right. Whoop. All right. Careful, Wolfie. Have a seat. We might be spending the night in a spawner tonight. Yeah, this was an accident and a half. Okay. Ooh, that was kind of scary. I got turned around there a little bit. Wolf, yeah, Wolfie did too. Alright, let's, oh, this is a bad idea. Let's light some of this area up so we don't... Place torches! Alright, let's do a UHC technique here and block this off. Yeah, I don't believe anything would be able to get over that. Except for maybe right there. Let's do that. Place blocks and torches. Wolfie, you can stay inside here. I'm actually going to destroy the spawner. Wolfie. Yep. Let's destroy the spawner. Wow, these things take forever to destroy. Oh man. And a boop. All right. Let's also block ourselves off here. Make this a proper hidey hole. All right. This was perhaps a poor choice of timing. Let's see what we got here. We got some bread, some iron. I'll take the iron. A bunch of gunpowder, a bucket, and some string, and a saddle. Interesting stuff indeed. But let's I guess turn this into our hidey hole for the night. Plonk down the workbench, make a few beds. What was I gonna say? I think I wrapped up all my thoughts. So yeah, thank you very much for those questions, and of course the continued donations at farlandsorbust.com for Child's Play charity, as we've been supporting these many years of Far Lands or Bust, and will continue to, and hopefully soon. I keep teasing it, but I keep getting distracted or putting it off, that we will be making additional charities, adding additional charities to the list of Far Lands or Bust charities to support. Look forward to that eventually. And let's go to sleep here. Like I said, thank you so much for watching and supporting Child's Play charity and Far Lands or Bust, and your enthusiasm for Far Lands or Bust so much that you want it to be available in other formats, but not right now, but maybe eventually. Thank you very much for that support. Right, Wolfie? No, he's just like, go to bed. We're really late here. This has been episode 358 of Far Lands or Bust. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Kurt. I will see you next time. I hope zombies don't spawn next to me.